Elias lived in a town where mornings arrived quietly, without urgency or noise. The kind of place where the sky shifted colors slowly, as if even the sun understood the value of taking its time. His house sat at the edge of a wide stretch of land, bordered by an old wooden fence that had been repaired more times than anyone could remember. Beyond it lay the soil he worked every day, the same soil his father had once tended and his father before him. To Elias, the land was both comfort and question. He rose before dawn, pulled on the same worn boots, and stepped outside while the world was still half asleep. There was a rhythm to his mornings, the sound of water poured gently over seedlings, the scrape of metal against earth, the quiet breathing of a man alone with his thoughts. Gardening was not just what he did. It was who he believed himself to be. He believed in effort, in showing up, in doing things the right way, every day, without excuses. If something did not grow, he assumed he had not worked hard enough yet. If the soil resisted, he pushed back. In his mind, patience meant endurance, holding on until results appeared. Waiting was something to be tolerated, not trusted. Yet beneath that discipline lived a restlessness he rarely admitted to himself. Each season, he watched the land closely, measuring progress not by health, but by speed. He wanted signs, proof that his labor mattered, that time was rewarding him fairly. When growth was slow, unease crept in. When nothing appeared at all, doubt took root. At night, Elias often sat on the porch, staring across his fields as the wind moved through empty rows. He told himself this was normal, that all gardeners waited, but deep down, he feared something else, that patience was just another name for being left behind. You may recognize this feeling, the quiet anxiety that comes when you do everything right, yet life seems unmoved. Elias did not yet know it, but the land was preparing to teach him a lesson no amount of force could uncover, a lesson about timing, about trust, and about the silent strength that grows only when you stop pulling at the roots to see if they are alive. Spring arrived with subtle generosity. It did not announce itself loudly, but Elias felt it in the way the air softened and the soil warmed beneath his hands. Day by day, small signs of life began to appear. Tender green shoots broke through the ground. Leaves unfolded carefully, as if testing the world before committing to it. For Elias, these moments felt like validation, proof that his discipline was working, proof that effort, when applied consistently, could bend time in his favor. He worked longer hours than before, driven by a renewed sense of purpose. Before sunrise, he was already among the rows, adjusting irrigation lines, inspecting leaves, pulling weeds with careful precision. Each small success fueled him, a healthy stem, a bud forming earlier than expected. Neighbors began to notice. Some stopped by the fence to comment on how well the land was responding this year. Elias accepted their words with a quiet pride, though he rarely smiled. Inside him, confidence grew alongside the crops. He started planning ahead, imagining yields, calculating how much could be sold, how much could be saved for the next season. For the first time in years, he felt ahead of life rather than behind it. The waiting no longer felt heavy. It felt temporary, controlled. Yet beneath the progress, something subtle shifted. Elias began to rush the unseen parts of growth. He checked the soil more often than necessary, adjusted what did not need adjusting. When a plant grew slowly, he interfered, adding more water, more nutrients, more attention. He told himself this was care, but it was also impatience disguised as responsibility. The land responded for a while. Growth accelerated in places, uneven and forced. Elias mistook this for mastery. He believed he had learned the secret, that patience could be improved by pressure, that timing could be optimized by will. He no longer waited with trust. He waited with expectation. You might know this phase well, the moment when things begin to work, and you assume they will continue if you just push a little harder. Elias felt strong, capable, necessary, but strength, when paired with impatience, carries a quiet risk. And beneath the surface of his thriving fields, that risk was already beginning to form. Slowly, invisibly, just as all important changes do. The first sign came quietly, almost kindly. A few leaves yellowed at the edges. Elias noticed, of course, he always did, but dismissed it as a minor imbalance. He adjusted the soil, increased the water, convinced that more attention would correct the problem. For a few days, it seemed to help. Then the yellow spread. Soon, entire rows lost their strength. Stems that had once stood tall began to bend under their own weight. The soil, once rich and cooperative, grew heavy and resistant. Elias worked harder, staying out late into the evenings, his hands stained and aching, his mind racing with solutions. He refused to slow down. He refused to step back. Then the weather turned. A stretch of relentless rain, followed by sudden heat, unsettled everything. Roots weakened. Crops that had been forced to grow quickly could not adapt. What looked like progress collapsed under pressure. Within weeks, months of effort unraveled. Plants failed not all at once, but gradually, painfully, one patch at a time. Elias stood in the field one morning and felt something break inside him. The silence was heavier than before. No birds lingered. No neighbors passed by the fence anymore. He ran his hands through the soil and felt only loss, not just of crops, but of belief. He replayed every decision, searching for the moment he could undo. The extra water, the constant interference, the refusal to wait. Guilt settled deep, heavier than exhaustion. He had trusted effort more than wisdom, control more than timing, and now the land reflected that mistake back to him without mercy. You may recognize this collapse, the kind that doesn't arrive with drama, but with quiet inevitability. The kind that leaves you alone with questions that have no quick answers. Elias felt betrayed, not by the land, but by the promise he had made to himself, that if he did everything right, life would respond in kind. As he walked back toward the house, the fields behind him bare and uneven, he wondered for the first time if patience was not something you could force, and whether in his attempt to rush growth, he had unknowingly uprooted his own foundation. Elias did not stop working after the loss. If anything, he worked more. He told himself that rest was a luxury he had not earned, that slowing down now would mean accepting defeat. Each morning, he returned to the fields with the same routine, though the rhythm felt hollow. The soil no longer greeted him with quiet promise. It resisted his hands, dry in some places, oversaturated in others, confused, much like him. He became obsessed with undoing what had already happened. He replanted too quickly, ignoring the land's need to recover. He forced seeds into ground that was not ready, convincing himself that persistence alone would repair the damage. When nothing emerged, frustration turned inward. He blamed himself in harsh, relentless ways. If he had been smarter, if he had waited just a little longer, if he had noticed sooner. At night, sleep escaped him. His thoughts circled the past like trapped birds, repeating the same questions without resolution. The future felt unreachable, the present unbearable. Elias lived between regret and resistance, unable to accept loss, unwilling to release control. The fields became a mirror of his inner state. Where there should have been balance, there was strain. Where there should have been patience, there was pressure. He stopped listening to the weather, to his body, to the quiet signs that once guided him. Even the wind felt like an interruption now, an inconvenience rather than a companion. You may know this stage well. The moment when failure hardens instead of humbles, when letting go feels more dangerous than holding on, even if what you're holding is hurting you. Elias believed that if he just tried harder, the past would forgive him. That effort could rewrite time. But denial has a cost. The more Elias pushed, the further he drifted from the simple truth he once lived by, that growth cannot be demanded. It must be invited. And until he was willing to stop fighting what had already passed, nothing new could truly begin. One evening, as he stood alone at the edge of the field, the sun sinking low and red, Elias felt an unfamiliar exhaustion, not in his body, but in his spirit. Something inside him was beginning to crack, not loudly, not all at once, but enough to make space for a change he did not yet understand. It happened on an afternoon Elias almost didn't go outside. The day was overcast, the kind that pressed down gently but persistently. He sat on the porch longer than usual, staring at the fields without really seeing them. When he finally stood, it was not with purpose, but habit. His feet carried him along the fence line slow and heavy. That was when he noticed the stranger. An elderly man stood near the far edge of the land, leaning lightly on a walking stick, studying the soil as if it were an old friend. He did not cross the fence. He did not wave or call out. He simply stood there, patient and unassuming. Elias felt a flicker of irritation, another reminder of what had been lost. But he approached anyway. The man greeted him with a nod. No sympathy, no questions, just presence. After a long silence, the stranger spoke. "You've been listening closely," he said, gesturing toward the field, "but not to the right things." Elias bristled. He was not in the mood for advice, yet something in the man's voice held no judgment, only observation. Elias asked what he meant. The man bent down and pressed his palm to the earth. "Soil speaks slowly," he said. "If you rush it, it resists. If you trust it, it teaches." They walked together along the rows. The stranger pointed out signs Elias had overlooked. Not mistakes, but messages. Places where the land needed rest, where nothing growing was not failure, but preparation. "Patience," the man said quietly, "is not waiting without action. It's acting without force." The words settled deeper than Elias expected. They felt simple, almost obvious, yet unfamiliar. The stranger did not stay long. Before leaving, he turned and added, "You don't grow faster by pulling on the roots." When Elias looked back, the man was already walking away, his figure fading into the gray distance. The field felt different then, not healed, not fixed, but understood. And for the first time since the fall, Elias did not feel the need to do anything at all. The next morning, Elias did something he had not done in a long time. He waited. He stood at the edge of the field without tools in his hands, without a plan forming in his mind. The air was cool, the soil still damp from the night before. Instead of moving forward, he listened to the quiet, to his breath, to the land as it was, not as he wanted it to be. That day, he did very little. He removed broken stems instead of replanting. He loosened soil without adding anything new. Where the ground was tired, he left it alone. Each action felt smaller than before, almost insignificant, yet strangely right. There was no urgency guiding his hands, only attention. As days passed, Elias began to change alongside the land. He shortened his hours, not out of laziness, but respect. He noticed how the sun traveled across the fields, how shadows revealed moisture and stress. He allowed space between rows, between decisions, between thoughts. Slowly, the tension that had lived in his shoulders eased. Healing did not arrive as a moment. It unfolded quietly. Some mornings brought disappointment. Others brought nothing at all. And then, one day, he noticed a small green shoot where the soil had been left untouched. It was not dramatic. It did not demand celebration. But it was honest. Elias felt something release inside him. Not joy exactly, but acceptance. He understood now that patience was not passive. It required courage to trust time, to risk waiting, to believe that not everything needed immediate proof. You might recognize this phase too, the subtle turning point where effort becomes intentional instead of desperate, where discipline softens into wisdom. Elias no longer tried to control the outcome. He focused on showing up correctly, not constantly. The land responded in its own time, unevenly, imperfectly, and that was enough. Each small sign of life felt like a conversation resumed after a long silence. Elias was not chasing growth anymore. He was allowing it, and in doing so, he felt a rebirth begin, not just in the fields, but within himself. By the time the next season settled in, the land no longer felt like something Elias had to conquer. It felt like something he walked alongside. Mornings returned to their quiet rhythm, but now they carried less tension. He still woke early, still stepped into the fields before the town stirred, but his movements were slower, more deliberate. There was space in his days again, space to notice, to breathe, to adjust without urgency. The fields were not perfect. Some areas remained sparse, others grew at their own uneven pace. Yet there was balance. What emerged from the soil was resilient, rooted deep, unafraid of change. Elias understood why. Growth that had not been rushed had learned how to endure. He felt the same within himself. The fear of falling behind had loosened its grip. In its place grew a quiet confidence, not the kind that demands results, but the kind that trusts process. Elias no longer measured success by how fast things happened. He measured it by how whole they felt. Neighbors returned, this time not to admire abundance, but to observe calm. They noticed how Elias worked, how he paused before decisions, how he left parts of the land untouched, how he spoke less and listened more. He did not explain. He didn't need to. Some lessons change you in ways words cannot carry. You may sense this shift too, the moment when struggle gives way to alignment, when effort and patience stop opposing each other and begin to work together. Elias had found purpose not in forcing outcomes, but in honoring timing. As the sun rose higher each morning, light spread evenly across the fields. Elias stood in it, hands resting at his sides, feeling peace settle where pressure once lived. He knew there would be difficult seasons again. Loss would return in some form. But now he carried a deeper strength. Patience had become his quiet companion, not as waiting, but as wisdom. And in that understanding, a new dawn had fully arrived. Every life, like every garden, moves through seasons you cannot rush. Elias learned this not through success, but through failure and through the courage to listen when everything went quiet. His journey reminds us that patience is not weakness. It is strength practiced softly, day after day. Here are the lessons his story leaves behind. First, growth is happening, even when you cannot see it. Roots deepen in darkness long before anything rises into light. Second, discipline matters, but without patience, it becomes pressure. True discipline knows when to act and when to pause. Third, failure is not the end of the journey. Often, it is the moment life asks you to grow differently. Fourth, letting go is not giving up. It is making space for what is ready to arrive. Fifth, patience requires courage. The courage to trust time, to resist forcing outcomes, and to stay present without guarantees. Sixth, peace comes when effort and acceptance walk together, not when one tries to overpower the other. If you are in a season where nothing seems to be moving, remember this: the soil is still working, so are you. Your journey does not need to be rushed to be meaningful. Transformation unfolds at its own pace, quietly shaping strength beneath the surface. Take this story with you, let it settle, and if it resonated, share it with someone who needs permission to wait. Subscribe for more reflective stories like this, and return whenever you need a reminder that patience is not the absence of progress, it is its silent foundation.